So you made something awesome in Blender. Now what? You want to take it out and show your friends? You got an image. You're like, check this thing out. But how do I do that? I don't want to just take a screen grab of this ugly image we got here, where there's like a grid and all this background and all this weirdness. I want a nice render like I've seen on the Instagram. Well, let's get into Blender and make that happen. I'm in Eevee right now. I just have my cube, default cube that is. If you hit 0 on the number pad, you'll jump over to your camera view and you will see what view you are looking at here in this box is what is going to be rendered out in this exact view that you see. So I'll hit 0 again and let's hit 12, F12 that is. F12 will render it out, and it rendered out in my second screen. Sorry about that. That's probably going to happen over and over again. And boom, there it was. I rendered it in Eevee by hitting F12 on the keyboard. Done deal. If you want to save that image, it is up here. Save as. See, under the image tab. And it opened up in my second monitor. Boom, again. That's great. Anyways, you can save it wherever you want as your PNG file. Does it have to be a PNG? No, you can change it right here. JPEG, whatever, TIFF if you really want to. I'm sure there's a need. I'm sure there's a want. I'm sure there's a person that is like, that's great, a TIFF file, finally. Anyways, is that it? No. We can go over here and change your render settings. Now, this is the general quality or sample rate, the number of samples per pixel for rendering. Ambient inclusion, what is that? It is exactly what it sounds like. Once you enable that, you are basically adding quality to your render. Let's just say that for the beginners. Bloom is the same with lighting. It adds a subtle amount of quality. Screen space reflections. Blah 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 blah. That is more so for glass and see-through objects or mirroring objects of things of that sort. Motion blur is blur when motion is in progress on the video. I will not need any of that for this, but you may. Freestyle actually adds like a bit of line, almost a 2D effect to your object as shading. So you gotta remember that it's not going to be a perfect line around your object. It's going to be according to where and how the light is hitting the object. Let's see, what else do we want to know? Shadows, you can actually turn shadows on and off, or turn the strength up and down. You can change how you are viewing the sample rate into the viewport. Be careful with this, you don't want it to be too high. You can also change over to cycles. Now, before I jump over there, I wanted to say there you can turn on denoisers. I think that's specifically or mostly in cycles, but it is useful in Eevee as well. I believe it's over here. Nope, one more. It's this guy. Denoising is over here. I have both of these on, and you can turn them on in the preferences right here in the add-ons area. I have a million of these things on, but that's the idea. Okay. Now, cycles. You can turn on just about everything I turned on except for the screen space refraction. I believe that is more so inside of the object rather than inside of the standard layout for Blender. Which I actually believe is more useful that way. That way you don't have things see-through that you did not intend, or vice versa, whatever the case may be. But again, if you are in cycles, you can hit F12 and you will render out what you are looking at in your camera view. I'm going to turn the sample rate down, way down, just to make sure that the computer does not crash, because we don't want that to happen while I'm recording this video. But you get the idea. This is another render of a basic sample cube inside the camera view, and now you got the idea for rendering out a image. Now for a video will render as much as you got, as many frames as you have laid out into your timeline, and you can change the maximum amount in this tab here that looks like a little printer called Output Properties. Output Properties has everything according to your output. Now, before you render a video or a ping sequence, more like it, because you will learn that ping sequences are just better for rendering out in Blender, because if there is a mishap or Blender decides to crash or anything of this effect, if maybe one frame of your video needs to be changed, it is much easier to change when it is in a ping sequence. That way you do not have to render. You do not have to render your entire video out again. You can just render out the one image. Trust me when I say render out a ping sequence, okay? Make sure your frame rate's where you would like it to be, and your start frame is at 1, and your end frame is at the end of your animation. Or however long you want it, depending on what you're trying to do. Let's just do one animation here with the cube. I'm going to hit I on the keyboard and go to rotation. And now I have a keyframe for that rotation. And I'm going to go all the way to the end and hit R on the open screen, and then Z and 90 to turn it 90 degrees on the Z axis. Then hit enter to confirm it at that location. Then I'm going to hit I and go down to rotation again and create a keyframe now at that position. Now when I go from one scroll or scrub from one location on the timeline to the other, there's a little bit of animation here. Now, before you render it out, you're going to want to create a folder to put it in. Let's create a folder inside of this temp folder called temp folder more, because it's more of a temp folder than the other one. Man, I'm hilarious. Okay, how do you render out the video? You have this nice video, you hit F12, what's that do? It renders out the one image that you are currently looking at. Is that what you wanted? No, you're like, I wanted a video. So we're going to hold Control and hit F12. Now look at what this does. It's rendering out each frame one at a time here. Now where is this going? Where do you think it's going? I think it's going to this folder, this output folder that you have decided on. So if you did not decide to put it in this folder, it's going to always go to this C-TMP folder just by default, just like these images right here that I have from a project from long ago. Long ago, there was a project, and I accidentally just clicked on another program that's opening up right now. So I'm going to close this render because I'm not actually saving it. And I'm not going to open the folder because I think you got the idea of what to do with that ping sequence. Now, that's how you render out an animation outside of Blender. Now, if you have this ping sequence and you're like, what do I do with this? I'm going to make a video on exactly what you need to do with that ping sequence here in a moment. And then, until then, this has been Eric Pauly at erpauly.com and the erpauly YouTube channel, which you are currently watching, and thank you for doing so. What would be even better is if you would subscribe and like this video, because that actually helps my video get higher up on the food chain of the YouTube. And I'm sure you know, watching the YouTube, you know exactly how cutthroat it can be. So please do one of those things. Anyways, this is Eric Pauly signing out. Stargate 413 logging out.